Keiser of Max Keiser. That means king in German, the king of exposing the fraudulent stock market. He's here with us, former top stockbroker, invented many of the virtual trading systems out there used worldwide, the Hollywood Stock Exchange, you name it. He joins us, always a popular guest. He'll be with us a little bit in the next hour. He's over in, I guess, all beyond Britannia now. He's moved from the Frenchy area over to the over there to England. I guess he's an Anglophile now. And he's on with us. Max, you know, I'm pretty wound up today, as you know, my compadre, but so much is going on. What is QE Unlimited going to do? We're seeing what you predicted start to happen. If you want to make any adjustments to your April total implosion date. Again, I want you to answer this question. What does total collapse mean? You never really define that fully. You start going into statements about gulags and people strapped forcibly to video games in slave camps, which they do in China. LA Times headline, slave 50 dragons to go free. People think I'm joking. And I know this sounds insane to new listeners. Folks, reality is insane. There's so much more going on. And then what else is on your radar today? Max Keiser.
All right, Alec. Great to be with you. Yeah, I'm sticking to my target, 26 weeks to go. Total breakdown. Things are unfolding pretty much as I expected. Total breakdown would be currency collapse. And you mentioned gold approaching 1,800. That's not really the big story. The big story is that gold has hit this week an all-time high in euro. It's hit an all-time high in rupee. It's hit an all-time high in Swiss franc. And if you look what's happening in Iran, I just sent you a story, their currency has collapsed by 20% in one day. This is part of the currency wars. This is World War III. We're in it right now. It started in really 2008, 2009. This is a race to the bottom. All the big countries are trying to get out of their economic downturns by debasing the value of their fiat paper money. Gold and silver have been tracking ever higher, and so that is very much in play. So a currency collapse is what I mean when I say you have, or hyperinflation is another word for it, when you between now and 26 weeks from now, and it's coming out every day that the amount of debts that the banks have been hiding are increasing exponentially. And so this requires ever more money printing. So just more of the same, but we're definitely getting to the timeline. You know, when they print all that money, Alex, they try to make sure that it doesn't end up making the price of food and energy go up too fast. So a lot of, you know, you have to understand these wars in Afghanistan and Iraq and around the world. This is how they get rid of a lot of the excess dollars. They get rid of it by dumping it in these countries in terms of war, because there's no cheaper way to get rid of money than to drop bombs and be in a war. So that's the deflationary offset to all the money printing. But even so, they still can't keep the price of gold from hitting all-time highs in all these major currencies. The new all-time high in gold and dollar will be shortly coming. Same thing for silver. And we've got, you know, more of the same. I mean, it's just, it's playing out pretty much as I've expected it would.
Okay, and the general public, Max, literally doesn't know what planet they're on. Some people are waking up more, but what do you expect the yuppies to do, the ones that'll stand around and laugh at people like you or I for living on the real planet, when things begin to really unravel? Will they, when the government says that those of us criticizing the government are at fault because that's already started, will the yuppies, you know, demand our heads, or what will happen? Or will they just suck their thumbs?
Well, people are going to be sucking their thumbs, as you say, but on the margin, on the periphery, there's real economic collapse. People in Greece are suffering a massive depression. People in Spain are now suffering a massive depression. You know, I mentioned on your show a year ago that the crisis in Europe would progress in the order that the countries are vulnerable, and that generally means size. It's no coincidence that Greece and Ireland and Portugal were the first to be taken over by the banksters. And now with the profits they made destroying those economies, and remember, this has made banksters incredible amounts of billions and billions of euros destroying these countries. They now have the war chest to take on a country like Spain. Once Spain is now in the crosshairs, Spain will soon join Greece and demand a bailout, and in exchange they will forego their sovereignty. After Spain will come Italy. And of course, Italy.
And the bailout always goes to the bankers, 90% of it, who then use it to bring down the next country, while the media goes along with the hoax that the bailout's actually going to the people and that they're to blame. I mean, the ultimate psyop, lies within lies, covered with more lies, and then still more lies.
The federalization, you've heard that term for the Eurozone. These countries are all coming under the auspices of the IMF, World Bank. Oh, here's a fantastic story from this week. The World Health Organization is introducing a global tax on cigarettes. This, to me, is the first tangible proof of this New World Order concept in terms of global taxation. World Health Organization, global tax on cigarettes. This is the beginning, because the Eurozone, as it collapses, there will be a necessity to create a new global central bank to roll up all of the European debt.
That's right. That's right. And stay there. We got to go to break. But you're right, Max. They always globally demonize cigarettes, which is reasonable on the surface, to first ban smoking in bars, then on the street, then in your house, then to tax what's left. This was always to be the first global UN tax. And then it'll be on everything else. They're going to, through our smart cards, track all the things we eat. Everything we do will be penalized for our carbon footprint for thousands of different items, with the control freak state tracking everything we do. Alex Jones here with a very important announcement for truth seekers. We've carried a lot of amazing films and books over the years on the online video bookstore at Infowars.com. And out of all the titles we've carried, one stands out because it is just so chillingly convincing. And that's Dreams from My Real Father by Joel Gilbert, available at Infowars.com. This film exposes the fraud that Obama is like nothing I've seen. If you want to know who Obama's real daddy is, this is the film for you. Don't forget, your purchase supports our broadcast and our growing media network. You'll also find at InfoWarsShop.com None Dare Call a Conspiracy by Gary Allen, the book that woke me up. We're also carrying Behind the Green Mask, UN Agenda 21 by Rosa Corey. This book is coffin nails to the globalist takeover. The Greater Good, the most professional and up-to-date film I've ever seen exposing the scourge that is vaccines. These titles and a lot more are all available at InfoWarsShop.com. All over the world, the control freaks and their minions are henpecking us socially to get us in line to be dominated. Non-criminal populations are being taught to behave like criminals and be treated like criminals. That's all this is. In fact, police all over the country admit they're told now, take a mom in if her seatbelt isn't on. Get people in jail. Get them in the system. Get them used to it. This is it, a criminal takeover. Max Keiser, I know you talk about the Gulag archipelago, the casino Gulag, but getting back into the global collapse, you got interrupted by the break. When you were getting into Barroso, people can type in federalization of Europe into news, and they can just see 3 weeks ago, the president of the EU Commission, Barroso, saying we're getting rid of sovereignty. I mean, it's all quoted. They're on TV saying it. They're bragging they've conquered Europe. They've conquered us. And the bankers say they want to bankrupt us. Why do the bankers, the mega bankers, want to make us so poor? Max Keiser.
It's an axiomatic truth that the poorer they make us, the richer they get. And they're doing a good job getting richer. You know, look at Ireland. Here's a story. I just sent it to you. In Ireland, they have a bank there, the Anglo-Irish Bank. It's 99.8% owned by the taxpayer. They were just forced to make a €1 billion bond payment. That's unsecured bond payment for the banksters on behalf of the banksters. And that $1 billion liability is now going to have to be borne by the citizens. Now, these bonds are unsecured bonds. And when the people were in these deals originally, it says clearly on the covenant of the bond, this bond is very risky. It's unbacked. It's unguaranteed. You may lose everything. But the government is completely corrupt with the banksters, and they're forcing this $1 billion wealth transfer. This is on top of the Anglo-Irish wealth transfer, billions of dollars transferred. So the people in Ireland are leaving in droves. Thousands, tens of thousands of people are leaving Ireland like they have historically before the boom years of the 90s. Same is true of these other countries. So the people are now migrants roaming the world with no place to go, no jobs, and they're being picked off. You know, they end up going into the the airport. The TSA is waiting for them. They've lost all their jobs in their home country, and they ended up being funneled into the prison system where they work for pennies a day, and now they're serfs. And it's all quite calculated and makes a few people extraordinarily wealthy, no doubt.
And there's just no end to it. What do you make of Monsanto and Bill Gates and the banks all invested, and that Prop 37 poll shows going to pass 2-1? Will that hurt the Monsanto if we're allowed to actually read what's in the food? Or will the feds, as Obama has said, sign an executive order just countermanding the state government?
I love the headlines on Monsanto this past week. You know, the floods that swept through and washed out so many crops. The corporate-owned media had a headline that, thank God these crops are Monsanto seeds and they survived the floods, intact more than if they were not genetically modified seeds. So never mind the fact that the business practices of these companies to begin with are directly the result leading to the destabilization of all these networks, which lead to the problem to begin with. You know, Monsanto is part of the corporate mafia. They own the media. So their media spin is always going to be positive. They are one of the deadliest. You know, I did a survey 5-6 years ago what people thought was the deadliest company in the world. I thought Exxon would be number one, but in fact, Monsanto. Monsanto is the most hated company in the world. You know, going back to Agent Orange and the Vietnam War, right up through Terminator.
Oh, no. Before that, they would dump deadly dox, and one drop basically kills you, and bury it secretly in black neighborhoods.
Yeah, no, this is really the most evil, company listed. But if you want to buy, unfortunately, there are people who are making money buying into evil. So they buy Monsanto stock, they buy Corrections Corps of America stock, and they buy the equity in the companies that are doing this gulag casino.
Did you
Monsanto.
see the new thing in a major scientific study? In fact, I've got it in the stack from yesterday. I never got to it. It's been conclusively proven that Roundup in all mammal species destroys the sperm and reduces fertility. Who would have thunk it, Max?
Well, I got to hand it to RT, Russia Today. Apparently, they're going to do a 1-year online video cam of rats being fed Monsanto, and you will be able to see the tumor growth in real time. The report that you had on Prison Planet and InfoWars of the rats who were being fed Monsanto products developing these incredible tumors.
Everything we said came true. Everything we've done has been right. Yeah, the New World Order, they take your children, they're going to show them their world. Vaccines, cancer viruses, GMO. Mommy and daddy aren't allowed to pack your lunch. They serve government. They serve the state. And we're going to give you an Obama phone, honey. Going back to Max Keiser, finish up with the Monsanto. I want to get your take on the Obama phone lady. And how they, again, destroy the industry, ship the jobs overseas, and then many people pretty much only have a future if it's on welfare. But then attached to that are these wastelands, and then the government says, oh, now we'll take control of your food. But, Big Sis's friend, Mrs. Sotero, Mrs. Obama, Michelle, she says she's going to decide what you eat now. And now nationwide, the feds say, Mama and Daddy don't pack that lunch anymore, Max. I guess, what do you expect? They admit the prices are going up on the food. They're going to decide what you eat, but they say GMO's good. They're just going to tell you no sugar or fat, Max Keiser.
Well, I don't live over there. That's one of the reasons is that it's hard to get decent food for all the problems that we have here in Europe. The food is not one of them at the moment. They have the common agricultural policy, for example, in France, which means that you have a plethora of fantastic food at your fingertips. But in the U.S., that's a huge problem. Leads to obesity and starvation at the same time. There's 1 billion obese people in the world, just like there's 1 billion starving people in the world. It's both the result of malnutrition, both the result of faulty economics. And so that's two sides of the same problem. And Monsanto wants to turn seed into a currency, and they want to therefore manipulate the currency, just like any bank on Wall Street wants to manipulate the currency market in any country, in any region, or the bond market or the option market. Once you turn it into a currency, then you can manipulate it. Because what if you had a recurring resource like seeds that every fall and every spring, they're simply regenerated and you didn't have to buy them again. They gave you the seeds to replant. Well, that's no business model. That would mean people could eat nature's bounty without having to pay nature a monthly nature tax.
Yeah, well, or restrict and ban vitamins and minerals, feed you debilitating food, so you've got to pay the military industrial complex, pharmacological complex money just to stay alive, and then they've got it actuaried out to kill you as soon as they've sucked the money out of you. I mean, it's...
Yeah, look, I'm not big on quoting scripture, but one phrase that did catch my eye was, look at the lilies in the field, they neither spin nor toil. Said by Jesus. Now, meaning, as I understand it, that the plants are not out there, working a 9-to-5 job that you need to pay them as part of some economy that's manipulated and governed by outside forces and banksters. It's a bounty. It's nature's bounty. It's providing for us if we simply have the humility to accept that.
And you can't allow that. Monsanto's got to add insect genes and pesticide to the crops so they spread into other species and poison everything.
Right. They monetize the seeds that don't need to be monetized because it's perfect as it is. No, they get in the middle, they intermediate this seed business, and that's why 2,000 farmers a month or a day in India commit suicide. Monsanto completely puts them out of business.
With the poison, they drink the herbicide to get rid of themselves because it's all they have left. And they also point out...
And then all that herbicide runs off through the Mississippi down into the Gulf and kills all the fish. So now the fish are dead to go along with your dead plants. So where do you get your food? Oh, well, you have synthetic meat we make in the laboratory. It wiggles like meat. It's pink slime. It's something that smells like meat, but it's made in a laboratory. It has no nutrition whatsoever. It'll either make you obese or you'll starve to death.
And used to maybe every 100 years there'd be a red tide. Now the Texas coast, you can't go down there half the time because it's like nerve gas. I was down there once when it was happening. I was literally sick for weeks after. Animals were dying from it. Birds were dead, millions of fish that I could see dead everywhere. And I went and looked it up, and scientists have proven it's all the herbicide coming out. But and it doesn't even work like they say it will. I mean, it's just pure fraud.
Look, you say, when is it going to hit here? What should people do? I think you have to understand the way that the narrative is structured. It's structured like an Agatha Christie novel. You know, an Agatha Christie novel, one of the characters, they all go to a big house in the mountains or something, and one by one, they die, and they're trying to figure out who the murderer is. That's the structure of the narrative. So it's not one big apocalyptic, the bomb goes off and all the characters die. No, they die one by one. So here, Greece is like one of the early characters in this Agatha Christie novel. It got taken out last year. Portugal, Ireland, and now Spain. Who's killing all these countries? I wonder who. Now Spain is being taken out to the woodshed and put 2 caps in the back of their head. Then it'll be Italy. Italy has 2,400 tons of gold. Well, we'll take your gold and we'll take everything else, but now you're part of the dead group of European nations. So it progresses in this way. The U.S. and the United Kingdom will be the last 2 to fall because the U.S. has a world reserve currency, and in the U.K. it's the global center for bank fraud. The bank fraud keeps this country alive and kicking, and will be one of the last countries to collapse. And the U.S., of course, has the world reserve currency, and of course these 2 countries have the so-called special relationship. So these 2 will probably be the last 2 to fall. After Spain, after Italy, then I think you got to look at Japan. As I've mentioned before, it's extremely vulnerable. They've got 200% debt to GDP. They're 100% reliant on energy coming to them from overseas. Energy prices like gold and silver will skyrocket as the currency collapses. So then you have the second biggest economy in the world then collapse. Then you've got a fiat currency collapse. Now we're heading into January of next year. Then we're talking to Alex Jones, and we're heading into April. We're getting closer to my timeline of massive global currency collapse, hyperinflation, gold at 5,000 to 10,000 an ounce, and it's all playing out in real time. And the people who benefit the most are the same people who are benefiting now. Corporate insiders, banksters. It's not government. Government left the building long ago. There is no representational government. It's dead, buried, and left in the 70s. We just have corporations and banksters, and they're just wholesale thieving.
And what happens next? I mean, the bankers, why would Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan and others, every time I turn on Bloomberg, shows where they have all these insiders on Bloomberg Radio. And whenever I read the Financial Times of London or you name it, I mean, I can pull the articles up right now where the foreign editor sits there and says, yes, it's tyrannical and we're getting rid of freedom and it's authoritarian. It's for your own good. And of course, Bilderberg runs everything. And yes, we've conquered Europe and we're going to conquer you. And and I mean, it's just, and then, you know, you get FBI training manuals. And I mean, I got one last week that's from like 6 months ago. And it says, if anyone that says there's a world government is insane and dangerous, look out. So I don't get how the public can be so dumb that in hundreds of financial papers, I know you read them, Max, they're bragging how they conquered the world. The bankers run everything. Ha, ha, ha. They get on the shows. And I've heard them talk about Europe, how they're taking down one country after another, and how they're even going to get rid of the sports teams that are named after countries and name them after mascots because that's too nationalistic. And they say it doesn't matter what Europe tries or Japan. We'll just hold them hostage. And then they snicker and giggle. It's like a criminal group parading around. Did you see that that Israel lobby guy? And everybody knows, folks, I don't get into this nationalistic, you know, hate Israel, love Israel stuff. All these countries are corrupt and out of control. But he got up there last week on C-SPAN. And then they put it on their website. They're proud of it and said, we need to stage a Gulf of Tonkin or another event to start a war with Iran, to blame it on them. And I mean, why brag about committing crimes on TV? Is this just them letting us know that there's no end to it? I mean, will they start, you know, will the government start barbecuing children? I mean, that's about all they haven't done yet in front of us or something.
Well, you have interesting developments at the highest levels. For example, Sheila Bair, who was the former top regulator at the FDIC, she just came out with a big book and media tour where she says that the entire TARP program, remember, during 2008 with Hank Paulson, was designed only to bail out Citibank. There was no economic justification for it. The crisis had been fabricated to hide the fact that, it's kind of a financial false flag, to hide the fact that Citigroup was insolvent, so they needed to be bailed out. So now you have Sheila, and she names Tim Geithner as the villain in the piece. So now you've got two very high-level people who are at war very publicly. So I think the difference now between even 6 months ago or maybe even 3 months ago is that the very top insiders, even people who identify themselves as Republican or conservative, are coming out and attacking people like the Tim Geithners who, on your show with people like myself or Salente, we've been talking about Tim Geithner for several years now as coming from the New York Fed, who then ends up as the Treasury Secretary, who got a direct line to Bob Rubin, former Goldman Sachs guy, who then was the Treasury with Alan Greenspan, that clique of inside banking guys. And now there is war happening at the very top echelons because there is no solution. Let me break it down another way, which I can't take credit for. I read this on another site, but I think it's really, really smart. Typically, there's two ways to approach economic fixes. You've got the Keynesian model, where you go into deficit spending, and then you have this Milton Friedman model, where you're printing money, monetarism. In this crisis, you've got historic excesses on both sides. You've got the most deficit spending by any country in the history of the world already happening in the U.S., and you also have the most money printing of any country in the history of the world. They're doing these two things simultaneously at historic levels, and yet they just came out with a report saying that the GDP estimate for the next quarter has been revised down to less than 1.5%. Less than 1.5% means the economy is at stall speed. Stall speed means that if you're in an airplane, you have to go a certain speed or the plane falls to the ground. An economy needs at least 1.5% growth to stay aloft, to escape just a complete and utter collapse. It's now drifting below that 1.5% stall speed, which indicates, as I've been saying now, and I'm holding to my prediction over the next 28 weeks, of hyperinflation, currency collapse, gold and silver skyrocketing. But I guess what I'm saying here is now, finally, the big McGillas, the 800-pound gorillas in the room, the big regulators are attacking Geithner. And now the war is really beginning in earnest at the top and the highest levels.
Yeah, that's what tells me the big implosion is coming. Max, is because when they start blaming each other, which they never want to do, because they want to keep everybody, snowed under so the thieving can happen. It looks like they want to give Geithner or Bernanke the hand grenade when the chairs stop. Is my instinct right on that?
Yeah, well, I think that exactly is a case where they realize that nothing is working and they're looking for scapegoats. And they can't, the public has had it. The public you can't squeeze the public anymore, especially in these European countries. You've already impoverished them. They're on the streets and they're scrounging for food. You can't twist that turnip anymore. The U.S. already has record unemployment, record numbers of food stamps, record number of poverty rates. There's not much more you can squeeze out of the U.S. population. So they're admitting failure at this point, and they're going after each other. And this is predictable. And I think I agree with you that it is a clear sign that the timeline is now compressing to a very near horizon.
Well, all I know is government is running around digging in, buying 1.6 billion rounds of ammo, armored vehicles, wheeled tanks, deploying warrior vehicles, Bradleys, caches of them, both in the news and my sources are saying, yeah, no, they're gearing up for absolute bedlam. Now, I'm not saying this is absolutely going to happen because they can always come up with new scams, new tricks. They may start a big war, which somehow puts this off. I mean, I don't know. I just know this.
We're in a war right now. It's a currency war. And to get back to what we were saying a little bit earlier, you see what's happening in the Eurozone. All the bad debts for these countries are being swapped for central bank paper. But of course, that means this new central bank that's being created starts life stillborn. It starts life dead on arrival and needs to be bailed out by, well, who's going to bail out the Eurozone? There's only one possible way, and that would be to create a global reserve bank. And we've talked about this before. And then you're going to have the global reserve bank swapping all the bad debt in Europe, along with the bad debt in Japan.
And then levying all these carbon taxes and cigarette taxes on us.
You have to pay a global tax, just like you pay federal, state, local tax. You're going to have to pay a global tax to support the global reserve bank, to pay for the maintenance of these debts that are being rolled up into this. They said it at Davos 3 years ago. They want to create a new facility that's $100 trillion in funding to absorb the global debt. Well, how are they going to pay for that unless you exert a global tax to pay for that? And we see it last week with the introduction of a global cigarette tax.
Max, I mean, again, the bankers brag that they've captured Europe, they've captured America, they're going to shut down free speech, they're going to take over the web, they're going to arrest whoever they want. This is the sickening plan. But simultaneously, they have the Southern Poverty Law Center, ADL, FBI, and Nightline and MSNBC saying anyone that says mega banks are setting up world government is evil and horrible and it doesn't exist. How are they going to juxtapose the two? Because as you pointed out, over a year ago, it's on screen now, we played the clips here, London Telegraph, world needs 100 trillion more credit, says World Economic Forum, but they mean 100 trillion to them, and then we've got to back it up with our taxes. How do they expect to get away with this much? Because sure, they've got the prostitute media, Max, but not for long. I mean,
they use the same tactic they used in 2008. Hank Paulson showed how to do it. You threaten martial law, and that gave him, remember, $750 billion to bail out Citigroup, according to Sheila Bair, just this past week. He threatened martial law. That's now in the public record. Originally, Congress rejected it. The next day, they crashed the market. How did they crash the market? As I've explained on your show many times, markets are not driven by price discovery where buyers and sellers come together to establish a mutually beneficial price. No, computers create a price first, and then the volume comes in later to make it look like that price was natural and organic. They are manipulating the price, so they simply pick a price which is 20 or 30% below the closing price from the day before. They turn the computers on, and the market crashes. They call it a flash crash. They call it...
Sure, so they're going to hold us hostage. Stay there and finish up on that. Let me put you on the spot here, Max. I know it's at night over there. Can you do 20 minutes in the next hour to take phone calls?
I'm ready, man. I'm ready.
All right, he's locked in. Max Keiser on target, over the target. Stay with us. Alex Jones here with a message to fellow freedom lovers. The prognosis for the entire planetary economic system runs from bad to worse. The globalist model is to shut down societies and starve patriots out until they acquiesce to the global takeover. That's why we've assembled the most vital and important preparedness items at InfoWarsShop.com. These are items that I did research on, that I personally use. You've got the life straw, so you can turn fetid water into safe water anywhere you go. The K-Tor hand crank generator to charge up key equipment during power outages or out in the field. Strategic Relocation, 3rd edition by Joel Skousen. When Disaster Strikes by Matthew Stein. ThyroSafe, used by Homeland Security to protect yourself during any radiological event. Hand crank shortwave AM/FM radios. Everything that we've researched and found to be the best is available at InfoWarsShop.com, and your purchase makes our InfoWar possible. We're getting prepared. Are you? InfoWarsShop.com. Going to be, again, taking your phone calls. Your questions for Max Keiser. He's our guest. We don't screen your phone calls here, but when we have a guest on, it's a question for them on economics or whatever question you have for Max. 1-800-259-9231. We'd love to hear from you. 800-259-9231. First-time callers. Let's do that. 800-259-9231. Max, what do you expect? I want you to finish your world government comment. What do you expect? Because the globalists only want to have the welfare hordes, at first, to vote for the big government so they can have them as a threat to riot, as Paulson threatened Congress. He said the welfare people will burn the cities to the ground, blood will run in the streets, tanks will be in the streets. That's congressional testimony. I'm paraphrasing it, but that's almost word for word. You're right. They've got the gun to our head. They brag about it on Bloomberg. I've heard them many times on those roundtable shows with the heads of big companies laughing. And I guess that's the downfall of criminals, is they love to brag. When I was a kid, I'd watch, old movies about criminals, old black and white movies like Humphrey Bogart and stuff, and think, oh, criminals don't brag to the guy they're about to kill. Criminals don't. And the more I learn as an adult, I go, wow, these movies are actually how things are. Because I've noticed criminals love to brag. What is that, Max? And what do you expect the welfare crowds to do, if their check gets hyperinflated or their welfare card still has the credits put on it but won't buy anything anymore? What do you expect to unfold?
Well, we see it happening in Europe, and as I said before, it's going to happen in the U.S., but it's being delayed because the U.S. has world reserve currency, which means at the moment food and energy prices are not as high as they are in these other countries. Once food gets to 40% or more of your budget, you tend to have a revolution. That's what we had in Cairo, and that's what we had across the north of Africa. And historically, that's a number to look for. Right now in America, food is about 16% of the budget of the average household. It's creeping up every day. And once it gets to 40%, look out for a major uprising. I think once gas gets over $6.50 to $7 a gallon would also be a major trigger point, which would stir.
But it's going to be a uprising for Obama phones is the problem. If the welfare classes aren't asking for freedom or jobs or industry, if they're asking for more welfare, it's just going to be a hellish situation.
It's just going to be it's chaos. I don't think there's going to be a real strong, movement and organization that's going to affect a regime change. It's going to be a mob, and there's going to be out of control, and it's going to be nasty.
I agree with you. Stay there, MaxKeiser.com. We're going to take your phone calls, and before he leaves, I'm going to ask him again, just in 60 seconds, what will the collapse look like? If it starts accelerating in April, how long will it take until we're like Argentina or not just Greece now, Spain? They're rioting and robbing the grocery stores, and police are attacking and beating people to death, and things are burning. It's only the beginning of the fun to bring in the New World Order, the birthing pains, to give birth to the abomination, desolation, TSA agent creature. Now, before I go any further, just briefly, I haven't plugged anything yet today. Please go to InfoWarsStore.com, whether it's ProPur water filters discounted or a subscription to InfoWars magazine, or to buy them in bulk at cost. Alex Jones here with a message that could revolutionize health in this country. Going back about 1.5 years ago, I began to learn about the incredible health effects of Youngevity products. Aaron Dykes lost 92 pounds. We're going to show you some before and afters. Aaron, break down what happened, your story.
I've worked really hard with diet and exercise to try to lose weight, but I just didn't get the results. It just didn't happen. Then I saw what you were doing with InfoWarsTeam.com. I wasn't even trying to lose weight, but I got it because I wanted to feel better energy. I wanted that nutrition. Didn't even understand how that could kickstart my own weight loss goals, but the products did that for me. I found myself suddenly losing weight, more energetic, wanting to exercise, wanting to eat the right foods.
And they don't even advertise it as weight loss. I want to challenge our radio listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com, sign up as a distributor, and get wholesale pricing discounts at InfoWarsTeam.com. $2 million in gems and gold stolen from California Museum. Man, I see articles every day about big museum heists and stuff. Man, you know things are going to hell in a handbasket. Man, I tell you, well, lock and load, folks. Just blast anybody trying to rob you. Going back to, desperate times make desperate people. I think Salente says that. We got to get Salente back on, too. It's just things are really accelerating. Max Keiser is our guest, maxkeiser.com. We'll give you his Twitter and stuff coming up in the next segment. Right now, let's go to Jim in Illinois, then Jason Scott, Stephen, and others. You're on the air, Jim.
Good morning, everybody. I'd like to ask Max a quick question, if I could. I'm getting ready to go with a family member of mine before her financial advisor at Edward D. Jones, and I'm going to attempt to get most of her money out and put it into gold and silver. Can you give me a couple of bullet points that I can bring up with that man as he tries?
I don't think you have to argue anything with that turd. Any financial advisor that acts like your money is his or your family's is his, look, you instruct them on what to do, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm in gold and silver and a little bit of private property and food and guns and trying to take care of my family. And I'm in information warfare. But out of your questions for Max, I'm sorry, Max, go ahead.
Yeah, it's for me, man. Anyway, well, open an account somewhere else first and have the new account at the new location send your current broker a transfer form, a 1090 or 8CAT. And I was in the business for many years, so I know how this works. And then they take it out of your hands. You don't need to even go see the guy. Just open a new account, a small account to get it started, and have that new firm that you're going to invest in gold and silver send your current firm a transfer form. And then when the broker calls and says, what's going on, just say, hey, buddy, thanks for everything, but I'm moving on.
And then yeah, exactly. And then don't listen to their sales pitch for 10 hours. I wouldn't take everything. If you're already in the stock market, I own 0 stocks. I personally, if you had stocks, things you know about, things you like, I would not do everything at once. I would research it first, and I would personally buy gold and silver at bullion prices, 1%, 2% above spot is all you should be paying, because obviously we're capitalists. Whoever's handling it's got to make a little bit of money. Take Midas Resources. They make their money by buying when it's low, hoarding it in vaults, and then when gold goes up, they sell it at discounted prices, but then are able to make a profit because gold has gone up, gold and silver. Like they're in a big profit phase right now, thank God, because they fund the network and they're great guys. But that's how that works. But anything else, sir?
I don't want to
can I talk about my new silver product?
Sure, Max.
I've got a new 1-ounce silver Keiser. It just launched a week ago. And the thing about this new silver Keiser, it's a 1-ounce coin. It says global insurrection against banker occupation. This is made with 100% recycled silver. And this is important because there's a lot of silver out there that's not accounted for, and we want to get it off the market as quickly as possible. So we want to get the demand for this up. And it's
and listen, Max, by the way, the big cardinal rule is obviously I have my gold and silver sponsor. You do what you do. But what your thing is so important about busting J.P. Morgan. You've got to talk to Ted Anderson at Midas Resources. He carries all sorts of specialty silver rounds. In fact, you know what? Go get Ted right now in here during the break. Let's talk to Keiser.
Get Ted on the phone right now.
Get him. I'll tell you what. We'll get him on. We'll get him on in the next segment, but I got to go to calls because I promised. Go find Ted. Let's get him on at 20 after. We'll talk to Keiser because I'm telling you, we're not commies, and I love your silver coin. In fact, I meant to even months ago when you launched that, when I first saw it, I meant to call Ted and say, hey, carry those because we carry the Lakotas, everything, every little specialty goodie, and absolutely, those go for a lot in the aftermarket, and I believe in it. So we need to get minusresources.com carrying Keisers. So that's it for that. All right, we'll come back. I know, folks, we don't make money off government bailouts and stuff. We actually, sell stuff we believe in. Ask yourselves, what are you doing in this time of great challenge? What are you doing to unlock minds? My friend Max Keiser, financial advisor, retired stockbroker, inventor of stock exchange computer systems like the Hollywood Stock Exchange. We're taking your phone calls right now, then big news blitz coming up on a host of stuff I haven't even gotten to yet. My head is spinning right now. Keiser is predicting global financial meltdown engineered, and it's starting. A global banking takeover. They're announcing $100 trillion in global government taxes they plan to put on us in the next decade. That's mainstream news. They're announcing they're going to shut down free speech, arrest whoever they want. The bankers just brag in the Financial Times of London. In one article, now for global government, now for world government, they brag about how, yes, we're tyrants. You will not stop us. Ha, ha, ha. I mean, it is just hubris to the max right now. Meanwhile, the jellyfish public has been conditioned. Corruption doesn't exist in government, so they still are wandering around thinking government's going to, hold their hand and help them suck their thumb when the government's going to help blow their brains out after they, give them cancer injections through the vaccines. I'm ranting here. We're taking phone calls from Max Keiser. My Twitter is twitter.com/RealAlexJones. It's important to follow us there because we never really got into Twitter until recently because I realize now how important it is to be able to send you photos or video clips as they develop. You can also sign up to get the magazine free as an e-format at Infowars.com/newsletter. People are asking, hey, I want this free. Why are you selling subscriptions at cost for the physical of Infowars magazine? How dare you sell something? Is the government supposed to take my tax money and give it to George Soros or give it to MSNBC to have anti-gun shows? What are you doing selling something at cost, you filthy American? Well, I'm being sarcastic. The point is, you can sign up at Infowars.com/newsletter and get the free magazine digitally sent to you with the links working on the websites and everything. It's pretty neat. But if you want the physicals, we have them in bulk in 10 packs up to 100 packs. The only way to get the first issue that came out on the financial meltdown, bankers declare they've conquered America. The only way to get that, because we kept like 3,000 back, is sign up for the next 12 issues, including the new Technocracy issue, the October issue that's out, and get the September issue free with that. So your first installment, you'll get 2 magazines in the mail, and it's got great graphics, great documentation, great way to wake people up, support the First Amendment, support Print 2.0. Again, that's InfoWarsStore.com. Max, tell us your Twitter account, because there's several out there. I want to make sure I plug the right one for folks to follow your site, your Twitter during Financial Armageddon.
Yeah, it's just Max Keiser, and you're right. You are a Twitter slowpoke. You are late to the Twitter party. I've already eclipsed your Twitter following with my massive 35,000 Twitter followers at Max Keiser on Twitter. And, get on the Twitter, man. Get on the Twitter. That's where you got to be.
Well, that's great, Max. Hello? But, I mean, sure. What is the exact? I'm still trying to get the address. What is the exact address?
Max Keiser. Max Keiser, M-A-X-K-E-I-S.
Okay, because there's a couple of them on there. I'm trying to find out.
Max Keiser, if there's a problem in the world, just flash Max Keiser in the sky like the Batman signal. I'll be there. Help is on the way.
I hear you, but your Skype is not on the way. All right, here we go. Let's go ahead. And he's had more coffee than I've had, ladies and gentlemen. It's that special Starbucks type. Let's talk to Jason in California. You're on the air. What's your question for Max?
Hi, I love you guys. Been listening to you for a long time, Alex. You're great. I just had some questions on preparedness. For Max, your thoughts on save the cities, states, or even countries.
Yeah, what are you doing to get physically prepared? Because you just left France because of their 90% tax rate. and all that, and areas are burning, and people are raiding grocery stores in Spain. Greece, the people are dumping their kids out on the side of the highway. It's a wonderful thing. You've now escaped to London, to Britannia, Command Base Alpha, Airstrip 1. What are you doing physically to get ready?
Oh, I go to the gym every day. And I listen, and I take Tangy Tangerine, of course, is my only supplement. It keeps me fit and strong. And I listen to Alex Jones on the iPod while I'm out in the gym pressing iron. And that's how I stay fit.
You do actually listen to the show. I've called you up before and heard it in the background. I'm very honored, Max, that you listen to the show. Did you hear the first hour where I had a little bit of an event? Did you hear that?
No, in the first hour, you were explaining how you like to eat baby poop out of baby diapers, and I thought, wow, this Tangy Tangerine, this must be the next level.
I did not say that. I said the TSA love to get into old ladies and babies' diapers that are...
I tuned into the show, and here's Alex Jones saying, yeah, it's nothing like a taco. It's a taco full of baby poop, and that's what I love to have with my Tangy Tangerine.
That is not what I said.
That's what I need to do.
Folks, there are no fully loaded baby diapers available at InfoWarsHealth.com. I'm sorry, that is not one of my delicacies. I'm not into that. I like chili rellenos, though, loaded with vegetables. Let's go ahead. I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, Jason. Max, I don't usually keep Max into a second hour because he's just as crazy as I am, and while you're hearing the effects of it, he's now degenerating. Stephen in New Jersey, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, sir. You know what you call one of those fully loaded diapers? You call it a Keiser. I'm sorry, go ahead.
All right, so I met this Army officer over the weekend at a party. He told me how he works for Ben Bernanke. He told me that he knew about QE3 months before it went into effect, and how they're actually expecting hyperinflation, and that they're banking on a global war to bring in a global currency. And then I told him that about the New World Order, and he just called me a crazy conspiracy theorist and walked away.
Oh, yeah, no. They admit it's global government. They admit they're tyrannical. They admit they're doing all this. But then when we talk about it, we're bad. I mean, it's like Doublethink out of 1984, Crime Stop. Max, can we be serious for a moment? What's your take on the man's statement?
I didn't hear it, and Chris just cut in and said he was asleep at the switch, and my audio was dead on the question, so I did not hear the question. And you should.
Okay. The man was talking about somebody who works for the banksters. All right, things are really. This is not Morning Zoo Radio, ladies and gentlemen. Keiser is having his own episode right now. Caller, recap your question for Max Keiser.
Okay, well, so this weekend I met an Army officer who actually interned for Ben Bernanke, and we were just talking, and he told me about the QE3, and I'm like, yeah, I know a lot about that. And he's like, yeah, we're actually banking on hyperinflation. I'm like, that's horrible. He's like, if we didn't do this, then the banks would go under. So he basically went on to tell me that they're actually banking on a global war in which they can bring in a global currency. And I was like, well, do you believe in the New World Order? And he's like, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist, and walked away.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's it. They brag in all these publications. They're conquering us through their fraud and saying, oh, but we don't want you to go under, when really it's not. They're not going under. They're taking over. Max, comments on that.
Okay, this is fascinating. I will get serious for this. The quantitative easing announcement, they are going to buy back billions of mortgage-backed securities on a monthly basis. Here's the fact. They could quite easily just simply retire the mortgages. You see what I'm saying? They don't need to bail out the banksters who have this mortgage-backed securities, the derivatives. Instead of, this is what's going on since 2008. Every time there's a need for some program to come into effect, instead of giving relief to the actual people by simply, they could have gotten paid down 90% of all the mortgages in 2008, and that would have cost less than $10 trillion. They have spent close to $30 trillion continuing to bail out the banksters, and yet the mortgage problem continues to fester and be a problem.
Sure.
That's the main point people need to understand. When Bernanke speaks, he speaks in a way that makes no sense for the average person who has being crushed by this economy. He continues to placate the bankers by this program, QE3, where he's bailing them out again by buying their bad debt.
Let's jam in another call here. Scott in Arizona, you're on the air with Max Keiser.
Hey, Alex, and hey, Max. So my first question's for you, Alex, and then for Keiser right after that. Did you hear about that, the bank robber in Aurora, Colorado, that they stopped every vehicle and took every person out of the vehicle?
Yeah, with machine guns. Families, that was months ago, families driving up, they point machine guns at them, drug everybody out, and it was all just staged. That's the new thing where we're all prisoners anytime they want, and then cops all the time now just shoot innocent people, and it's like an afterthought. They're just getting us ready. Yeah, Max Keiser is, well, I mean, you have a question for Max. Go ahead.
And then after the, okay, so Max, you got your time date in April of next year, right? So my question to you is when that does collapse, what are they going to replace it with? What is the actual thing that they're going to have at that moment when everything comes down? How long are they going to let it run for before they bring up their solution? And what is that going to be?
Global government, global banks. There you go, Keiser. Answer your question now.
The currency being considered is being propagated by the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and it's called a special drawing right, or SDR. This is going to take the place, and all of the global transactions will occur on the wholesale level in the SDR. The dollar will be convertible into the SDR, the global currency, but at a rate that is 70, 80% less than what your purchasing power is today. So if you look up SDR, special drawing right, it'll give you the whole story about how the IMF, which is in its own right a central bank run by Christine Lagarde, a globalist, who is now going to deputize that bank to be part of this new global multi-trillion-dollar facility. It'll be priced in this new global currency, the SDR.
Yeah, amen to that. And to define globalist, it is a world government corporatist, crony capitalist, anti-free market monopolist who believes in eugenics or the science of taking over society and breeding the public to be servile slaves, those that they allow to kill. It is, to give a quicker definition, psychopathic control freak social engineers dedicated to scientific total war against humanity and mass extermination of at least 90% of the world's population. In the takeover phase, they use economic warfare to dominate society, then posing as saviors as they collapse the society into their reorganization grid, which is itself an extermination dumbing down program, preparing you for the next phase of the operation.
You didn't write that?
No, I didn't write that.
You didn't write that? You didn't write that?
That's right. I didn't say that. Government did.
You didn't say that?
But I did invent the Keiser. All right, let's go. Fully loaded. Let's go ahead and talk to... I'm sorry. I got it. Keiser, stop it. We got to go to Jeremy in Tennessee. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hey, Alex. How are you?
I'm just thinking about well, go ahead, sir.
All right. Well, this is basically just to call and tell people that if they're thinking that the TSA and these psycho cops will not delete your videos or what happened in our case, take our camera and completely vacate where they were when they were trying to arrest us for skateboarding in a apartment development, and things kind of went bad, and they handcuffed my friend who was filming, and then like immediately put the camera in the car and then unhandcuffed him and left. And these were police officers with no name tags, just badges on their shirt, and they were undercover police officers that came and basically just started harassing us for skateboarding.
Oh, listen, cops now stop adults in rural areas and ask what you're doing. You're like, I walked over to the cow pond. I'm walking. Why are you walking? I'm not going to answer your questions. Oh, really? I'm going, are you looking for somebody that looks like me? No. I'm asking you why you're walking out here. I mean, this is the new America. It's about, hey, you're my food, and I'm here to teach you to do what I say. Now get on your knees, you American trash. Now, a lot of cops aren't pure criminals, so they're waking up. Some of them are good people, but I'm telling you, this hidden freedom, what we're seeing. Do you have a question for Max Keiser, criminal?
I don't. I just wanted to throw that out there to let people know.
All right, I got to jump. I appreciate your call, but we're taking calls for Max Keiser right now. Only have time for one more for Max Keiser. I skipped the break to take the calls, folks. Brian in California, you're on the air.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty damn good right now. I'm pretty crazed, actually. Feels pretty good. Are you crazed?
Well, cool.
I'm beginning to realize being crazed is the secret to life. You know, I don't think you're actually intelligent or awake or alive unless you're crazed. I've noticed people I really like who have high intelligences are crazed as well. Max, I think you would describe yourself as crazed, wouldn't you?
Isn't that what Seal sang about? You got to be a little crazy. You got to be a little crazy. You know, that Seal song. You know, the TSA people are everywhere in the world. You know, it's not just the United States. You travel anywhere in the world now, you have the same kind of people at every border crossing everywhere in the world. It's gone global. That's an American export.
Well, it's the RAND Corporation. Yeah, it's a global government program. It's continuity of agenda. Brian, real fast question here before I perseverate and cut you off.
All right, cool. No, it's okay. I'm a 30-year-old college graduate. I'm struggling, server at a restaurant, and I'm hearing all this talk about investing in gold and silver, and it's looking very unpractical for someone in my situation to invest any money that I do have that I'm trying to live off of.
Yeah, I would invest in skills that people will need on top of your degree. I would go apprentice and work for places, you know, because I know plumbers and people that own lawn companies that make more money than most of the yuppies, you know, have college degrees. I'm not knocking your college degree. The point is it doesn't exist in the model that's coming. It's like a big joke for the globalists. Some degrees will have worth, but only if you're willing to put people in gas chambers, basically. Law enforcement type degrees and surveillance and spy degrees. You know, that's a useful thing. I would invest in friends, family. I would invest in being in shape. I would invest in lead and make sure you have firearms. Max Keiser, quick comment for him.
Well, he's not really an investor at all. He's somebody who's working to stay going. And but there's a political side to the silver campaign. If you just buy 1 ounce, and if 100 million people bought 1 ounce, we would bankrupt J.P. Morgan. See, there's the political side to it. It's a savings vehicle, but if you're not a saver because you're 100% worker, you have no savings at all, it's not a question. But if you're part of the political movement to put J.P. Morgan out of business, then you might want to scrape together $35 to buy 1 ounce.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate your call. Max Keiser, look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you for the time.
Oh, always a pleasure, and good luck with that baby burrito.
All right. Thank you so much. There goes Max Keiser. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.